Lindsay.
And I'm Jake Hoffman.
And this is Moderately Outraged.
Today we're going to talk to you a little bit about the Republican National Convention, which just finished up last week. It got a lot of press, obviously. There was a lot of great speakers. There was a lot to take from it. But what we wanted to talk about today was about how the Republican Party didn't put forth a political platform. Specifically, one of the most important issues, especially to millennials like us, is the environment. And we are not talking at all as Republicans about the environment.
Yeah, what really got us thinking about this issue is that, we were in the Caribbean the past 2 weeks, and, go check last week's episode on our Moderately Outraged Instagram page to see the beautiful backdrop that we had. And while we were there, we did a lot of snorkeling, and, we really saw that the reefs were dying and that there were a lot of problems. And while they were absolutely beautiful, you can see that the environment is being affected. And when you talk to a lot of locals, they say, you should have seen this 20 years, 30 years ago. And it makes us go, that along with the backdrop of the RNC not talking about the environment, we go, why aren't Republicans, really taking hold of the environment as a serious issue and talking about it so that the Democrats aren't the only ones, taking charge of environmental policy?
Yeah, and it's definitely an issue that hits home, not just because I stepped on a sea urchin this week and I went to a long research debate on why there's sea urchins on the reefs, and it actually turns out because we killed off a keystone species just abruptly in the 80s, an unintended consequence of some of the human interaction that happened on the reef. And, I thought to myself, are we going to do an entire episode just because I'm mad about sea urchins? Yes, but is it still a really important issue that needs to be talked about Republicans? Also, yes. So here we are, and we're talking to you about the environment because of the fact that, like Michelle said, we are just not talking about it. To the point that we have climate deniers still in the party.
Yeah, and it's, there are so many intelligent people in the Republican Party, and for them for so many people to still deny that climate change exists, it's very problematic. It's what, Democrats point to say that, Republicans aren't the party of science. And we're here as young Republicans to say, today affirmatively that climate change does exist. And human interaction with the environment, it affects the environment. And if we don't treat the environment well, it will affect the environment negatively, and it has in the past. A key example of that is that in the 1800s and early 1900s, whaling was very prominent, to the point where humpback whales were nearly extinct. But thanks to conservation efforts in the last, about 40 years, the humpback whale population has completely started thriving again, which shows how just a little bit of positive change can undo years of negative interaction by humans.
But it doesn't happen by just ignoring the problem or pretending it's not there. And, in Florida, our governor, Rick Scott, when he was governor, wouldn't allow the word climate change to be spoken in his administration.
Which is absurd.
And that makes us look terrible. And as Republicans, and it makes us mad as millennials too, that it's how are you not going to even talk about this issue? How you can't just stick your head in the sand and pretend it's not there. Now, Governor DeSantis has done a much better job cleaning house and actually making it a priority and reaching across the aisle on certain issues. But this is the reason we're talking about it now, is because we don't believe that the earth is going to end in 12 years, right? That's a really important differentiator besides what the Democrats are telling you right now. Because if you were to listen to Democrats talk about this issue, you've heard the Green New Deal, right? You've heard people talk about this. If we were going to take their word for it, we'd be listening to Greta Thunberg, we'd be listening to Leonardo DiCaprio, the whole world would be underwater, and we'd all be, not eating meat, not flying planes, not driving cars, not doing all these things. And we need to bring some sort of logic and nuanced approach to climate change and this issue, or else Democrats are going to take this and they're going to be the only ones at the table.
And we also need to bring a less government intervention approach. Not saying that there doesn't need to be some regulation, but we need to take government and take more of a free market capitalist that type of economic approach to environmentalism. And my big issue with the Green New Deal is that it reminds me strikingly of Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward. And if you don't know what that is, that was in China in the 1950s. Mao Zedong, the dictator of China, said that, the socialist dictator, said that he wanted to bring China from an agrarian society to an industrialist one. And he did so by forcing the entire country to change its ways and to become industrialist. And you know what the result of that was? They did achieve industrialism, they absolutely did, but 50 to 60 million people died of famine because of the unintended consequences that he didn't see and that, that people didn't think through. The same thing happened with Stalin's 5-year plan. This is what happens time and time again when governments step in and force the entire society to change in the name of quote-unquote progress. So what it sounds like progress to somebody at a certain time, when you look back, you go, oh wow, that was terrible, and that really hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, and Dennis Prager, you did a great video on this
for
the rolling blackout situation in California. I would go check that out if you have a chance. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight today is that there are, surprisingly, right, Republican organizations, particularly led by young people, the ACC, the American Conservation Coalition. We've been doing work with them for many years at this point. They actually have also recently teamed up with the Young Republicans National Federation and combined are bringing forth this issue to the world because of the fact that there are free market, responsible ways of approaching environmentalism, and we cannot allow the left to just own this entire conversation. Now, if the Republican Party were to listen to me about some of this stuff, right, they would be sitting there on their platform explaining to people all of the highlights of the last 4 years or so while Donald Trump was in office, all of the innovation that's taken place. So, I mean, you look at some of these different things, and you look at Texas, and you look at Pennsylvania, and they have revolutionized their entire industry, their economy, all these things with natural gas. This is clean. This doesn't produce the same CO2 emissions that everybody says causes climate change. And so we should be talking about that. Then you look at nuclear energy, which Democrats, after 48 years, have just decided to add to their platform. Well, welcome to the party.
Which they fought for all those years.
Yeah, because again, if the issue behind climate change is carbon dioxide emissions, nuclear energy does not emit any of that. So it has its own problems, which is why they've avoided it, but it's like these are clean energy, in reality. And then you look at other things like renewable energies, like wind, solar, all those things. I mean, they're not bad. I don't think anybody has a problem with those type of energies. What we don't like is we don't like it when we are taking government money and picking winners and losers and spending it on certain, companies like Solara or something like that, and trying to force new energy into the sector.
In the Dennis Prager video that for PragerU that was done, what they explained is the reason for the rolling blackouts was because the government of California forced wind and solar energies to be used, so then they just let the infrastructure of the power lines fail, which was the number one cause of all the forest fires. So now they have to force blackouts, in order to try to keep the power lines from exploding in the heat.
Yeah, and of course Democrats are still fighting with all of the innovative companies out there, and they're trying to, sue the bad companies and villainize the good companies, like, again, people like Tesla and Elon Musk.
Tesla is something that is, we should be applauding Tesla because it is one of the most innovative solutions to, the electric car was considered dead in, the early 2000s. But Elon Musk and Tesla single-handedly revolutionized the electric car and have made it something that is incredibly popular. And, it is a, public-private partnership. But at the same time, so Bernie Sanders attacked Elon Musk, saying, Elon Musk loves socialism because he got $4.9 billion from the government. And thankfully, Elon Musk clapped back at him and reminded him that he's doing more for the environment than any other company on earth, which you would think that that the Democrats who think that the world's going to end in 12 years because of carbon emissions would love. But no, they're complaining about the money that Elon Musk got, the money that Elon Musk got from the government in order to help save the environment.
Yeah.
And then Elon Musk added, and I love this point, that was BS, that, as he said, quote, BS to distract from the $5 trillion in oil subsidies.
Yeah, and like this is one of my favorite subjects that nobody has any idea what's going on. But
trust me, it is.
Yeah, but seriously, we have been subsidizing oil in this in this country for dozens and dozens of years at this point. And to the point of
70s,
we're talking about, again, trillions and trillions of dollars of spend per year to subsidize oil. And one of the things Republicans love to complain about, like I was talking about earlier, is when we subsidize companies and pick winners and losers in the market. Well, we've been picking a winner in oil for a long time. We need to end that subsidy. And this is something that, people on the far right and the far left can both agree on, because, when I talk to my environmental professors or something like that, they're looking at me and they're going, that's kind of how we should do it, right? Like why are we subsidizing something like that? Like we probably do need some more free market solutions to take place. And, it's not something that we're advocating for to try and just, open this free market and end all environmental regulations. Like one of the things that, we've talked about on this show plenty of times is that, one of the things I want my federal government to do, and really the only thing, is protect people, protect property. And in order to do that, that does involve environmental protections. That's why the EPA was created. Now, it's been overextended and abused a little bit, but it doesn't mean that the intention was not originally good. You don't want to see rivers burning in Cleveland. So we need to do things to protect the environment, protect people, but we have to do it in a nuanced way, and we have to understand that there are solutions out there. And if Republicans do not take this entire issue and run with it and actually highlight the good work that's being done around the country and around the world, then we're going to end up with the Green New Deal, and it's going to look awful, and they are going to try and change your entire lifestyle, and you're going to end up not being allowed to eat cows on fly planes anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Republican environmentalism, the solution should be, innovation, capitalism, and, free market, but with some regulation, because, we as libertarian as we are, we recognize that some regulation is important, but at the end of the day, I can't say enough, innovation. So I grew up in Florida, but my whole family grew up in Pittsburgh, and I spent a lot of time up there. And that up there, steel is king, and industry takes absolute precedent over the environment. If you're from Pittsburgh, the environment is probably, much more than an afterthought to you. However, I do believe that with innovation, we can find a way to make steel in a cleaner, more environmentally friendly way. You can't tell me that the nation that put a man on the moon can't find a way to, have manufacturing and keep these types of jobs and these types of industries that we've always had, but just in a more sustainable and environmentally friendly way. And the way that we accomplish that is through innovation. And the only way that innovation can happen is if government clears out the way for entrepreneurs to step into that marketplace and step into that space and come up with ideas, come up with innovation. It needs to be incentivized rather than having carbon taxes and penalizing people for having industry.
Yeah, that's my thing though, is that, to GOP leaders that watch this show, because I know that they are out there, right? The ones that I've talked to, the ones that I've been pleading with for years to make the environment more of a priority of the party. This is just another plea, right? Please make the environment part of the party's platform and give the platform to the people, because if we want young people to vote for us, first off, you should care about the environment. Let's just start there. Care about the environment. Everyone wants the water to be clean and the air to be nice and not have trash around us. All these things, these are bipartisan, and everybody should care about that stuff, right? Let's start there. Now, Think about the voting blocks. If you want millennials to come over and vote for the Republican Party, the only way we're going to achieve that is by addressing the number one issue to most millennials, which is the environment. So after
most young people, if you ask them what the biggest issue facing our nation is right now, they say the environment.
Yeah, after COVID and everything goes away in November, but
yeah, the environment is going to come back to the forefront. After the election, that is going to be the biggest issue. And if we want young people to actually be Republican and vote Republican, we have to take the environment and make it a capstone issue. And if we fail to do that, we will be giving away our ability to make policy on the environment. We will be giving away the young voting bloc. We will be giving away elections, essentially. If you want to see Republicans get elected to office, care about the environment. You have to.
Yeah.
This isn't something, even if you are in Pittsburgh or Ohio and you say, I don't see beach, I don't see, a clean environment, I just want my industry to come back. You still should care and hope that innovation happens to make those industries work, because if not, young people will never vote Republican again.
That's it. She had it. Boom shakalaka. If this episode made you moderately outraged, please like, subscribe, go follow us on Instagram. We have awesome content there that is not just our weekly show. I want to thank Conservative News Today and BizPac for letting us on their platform, sharing it with all of you guys, listening to us every week, and I appreciate it. Until next week.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day.